help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound.
All right, welcome back to What's the Rush? I am Rebecca Rusch, world champion athlete, explorer, entrepreneur, and your teammate on this podcast adventure. And as the name implies, this is a space where we take some time to slow down with folks who are often on the move. And the intention is to look at insights that are discovered not in the spotlight, but in the moments of stillness and reflection. And today we have the pleasure of being joined by Mirna Valerio. We share a love of bikes, running, forests, mountains, poetry, pushing limits, breaking barriers. And Myrna has really redefined what it means to be an athlete, a leader, a storyteller. Many of us know her as the Mirnavator for her grit and determination, but you'll also learn she's deeply reflective, joyous, comical, and whip smart. She's an educator, an ultra runner, a skier, a mom, a writer, a Juilliard trained singer, a diversity practitioner, and so many other things. She challenges norms and opens doors for others to follow. And her message is that everyone deserves to take up space in sport, in life, or wherever you are. So, welcome to What's the Rush, Myrna. It's so great to have you here.
Wow, thank you for that intro. And I'm like smiling a lot, and now my face is hurting. So thanks.
Well, you make me smile, and we got to know each other through bikes, which is amazing. And then our relationship expanded to actually writing and poetry.
hmm
You were the first person that ever invited me on a writing date. I didn't even know what that was. And so you've really kind of opened up a writing world for me. So I asked you if you would want to start us off with reading a poem, and you said yes.
Sure.
So I would love for you to kick us off with a poem.
I will say this about this poem. I've been obsessed by this poem for the last couple of months after picking up a book about women in the outdoors, and I picked it up at in the airport, and I happened upon this poem as I was just thumbing through this book one night before I went to bed, and it's called "Trophic Cascade" by Camille T. Dungy, and here it is. After the reintroduction of gray wolves to Yellowstone and, as anticipated, their culling of deer, trees grew beyond the deer stunt of the mid-century. In their upreach, songbirds nested, who scattered seed for underbrush, and in that cover warrened snowshoe hare. Weasel and water shrew returned, also vole, and came soon hawk and falcon, bald eagle, kestrel, and with them hawk shadow, falcon shadow. Eagle shade and kestrel shade haunted newly buried runnels where deer no longer rummaged, cautious as they were now of being surprised by wolves. Berries brought bear, while undergrowth and willows, growing now right down to the river, brought beavers who dam. Muskrats came to the dams, and tadpoles came too, the night song of the fathers of tadpoles. With water striders, the dark gray American dipper bobbed in fresh pools of the river, and fish stayed, and the bear who fished also culled deer fawns, and to their kill scraps came vulture and coyote, long gone in the region until now, and their scattered seed and more trees, brush, and berries grew up along the river that had run straight and so flooded, but thus dammed, compelled to meander, is less prone to overrun. Don't you tell me this is not the same as my story. All this life born from one hungry animal, this whole new landscape, the course of the river changed. I know this. I reintroduced myself to myself, this time a mother, after which nothing was ever the same.
Wow, thank you.
I, I mean, yeah, wow. Wow is the only word that came to mind. after reading this poem for the first time. I'm in bed, I'm tired, I'm thinking about a lot of things, and I read this poem and I read it again, because you can't just read a poem once, and you have to read it out loud. And so I read it out loud again, and I immediately thought of a cascade, a waterfall, or a snowball, or a butterfly effect, or a ripple effect, of how one seemingly small thing can change the course, or change the trajectory of everything else in significant ways. And for Camille T. Dungy, I think it's Dungy, not Dungy, she likens that change in the reintroduction of wolves to Yellowstone to the change a person experiences as they become a parent. And I mean, we often forget that we are nature too.
Yeah.
And so, of course, something like that changes us deeply and profoundly, and changes the course of our lives, but also changes the courses of others' lives. And I just, for a good month, I read that poem twice every night before I went to bed, along with Mary Oliver's Wild Geese. Meanwhile, the Wild Geese. And I would just get so excited about reading the poetry, because it feels so good in your mouth. Um, and the rhythm of the words, the alliteration, the assonance, and all of those sort of poetic elements, but how they are reflected in our lives. And so, anyway, I'm not going to get too deep deep into the weeds with that, but yes, it's a poem I keep returning to, and I bought her book and I brought it with me to France when I was in Chamonix training, and I just took it with me everywhere. And I read that poem while I was in the spa. I read it, while I was in bed, or while I was having breakfast down in a hotel. And if there's just something that I feel like speaks to not just my life, but everyone's lives. How one small change can change a lot of things for you for the positive, or maybe that change isn't a great change. But I love in that poem how she speaks specifically to something that was previously thought as harmful,
Yeah.
and that humans had almost eradicated. When they were brought back, they fixed the ecology of the place naturally. And it's nature is always the answer. That's one of the things that I get out of that. Nature is always the answer. Going out on a trail for me has answered a lot of things, questions, concerns, for me. Um, yeah. So.
There's a lot to start with there. I mean, when I read it, I've read it a few times now. You sent it to me yesterday, and what I love, you push me into areas that, a lot of words I don't know, a lot of things I don't, so I had to look up the word trophic, and like, what is that? And about basically in a species, it's like this sort of top species of, anyway, I had to like look things up, and it
Mm-hmm.
challenged me. But I also really I really honed into the nature and the cascading effect, and how nature teaches us. So
Mm.
I would love to take that thread into maybe your foray into nature and your discovery, as a young girl, and how that's grown and become part of a really integral part of your life, living in Vermont and
Mm-hmm.
immersing yourself. So what is nature to you? And do you remember that first discovery?
So what's really interesting right now is that I am in the mountains that made me fall in love with mountains, the Adirondack Mountains, here in New York State. And uh, prior to actually coming to the Adirondacks, when I was 8, I went to camp. I went to summer camp in the Catskills, which some people say are not mountains, that they're hills, but they're actually mountains. Okay. For all you West Coast Rockies folks, we have mountains here too. Anyway, I had the opportunity to go to summer camp when I was 8, and I didn't want to leave. I had such a great time living in a cabin with 8 other girls, um, and learning how to swim. I learned how to swim that year in a lake. I learned lots of other things. I learned about leadership. I learned about community. I learned um, about the stars. I'd learned so many things, and it took me so far out of my comfort zone. But I love that. I've always been someone who has sought adventure and is curious, and I lead my life with curiosity. And being in nature sort of lends itself perfectly to that.
Yeah.
And so I remember trying to when the bus got back to New York or New York City, Port Authority, New York City. My mom and my stepfather were waiting for me, and I didn't want to get off the bus. And they thought I was crying. They thought somebody had bothered me, and I'm like, I don't want to go home. I want to go back to camp. And that was the only summer that I got to go to camp. Meanwhile, I've sent my son to camp every single summer. I sent him for 8 straight summers for 7 weeks at a time. Um, but that was a real turning point for me, and that set off this like extreme curiosity and need to be outside. Whether it was outside in the city or outside in the woods. And so, anytime I had an opportunity to go hiking or camping, when I went camping in the 7th and 8th grades in middle school, that's when we came to the Adirondacks with our teachers. And I saw my teachers in a different light. They were making sandwiches for us. They were leading hikes. They were making sure that our lean-tos were, you know, properly tarped up, and that the bears wouldn't get to us. And it was just such a cool experience. And we got to do a lot of hiking, and it was hard. And we hiked Mount Joe, which I'm not far from right now, and that I got to hike last summer for the first time in 42 years or whatever. Maybe I'm doing my math wrong, but anyway. Uh, and and like it's all pretty circular. And I got to be up there. I was helping lead kids up from that program I was talking about, Access Wild Places. um and I helped them get up the mountain. And that's so cool, like that I get to share that experience with kids who otherwise might not have access to these really incredible spaces in the outdoors, because of where they were born, or because of the financial status of their families, or what have you. And yeah, so that's the Adirondacks and the Catskills are where I love to learn. Oh, I learned to love mountains.
Mm.
And
And
anytime
you've
I think on a
carried
mountain
that
is,
with you through your life, right?
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Never lost track of being in nature, being outside.
No, and I grew up in Brooklyn, um, the real Brooklyn in New York City, not Brooklyn anywhere else. I grew up in Brooklyn, and we were outside all the time.
Yeah.
We were, when we weren't in school, we were outside exploring the neighborhood, going to parks and going to
Yeah.
various public pools, etc. And so, it wasn't like childhood now, which is, a lot of the time behind the screen. We, at 8 o'clock in the morning, we were out of the house and don't come back until 5.
Right. Same. We're
And so
same.
we were,
Come back for
yeah.
dinner. That's it.
Exactly. We were on our own. And we were
Yeah.
expected to take care of our siblings and our cousins and neighborhood friends. We all took care of each other. And
Mhm.
that's where I learned all my leadership skills and my social skills and intuition, and to listening to intuition and navigational skills.
Mhm.
And so that, I said this to someone else on another podcast, but like that, those skills are directly transferable to every single thing that I do today.
Yeah.
Leading, wayfinding,
Yeah.
um, and shutting up when we need to be listening to somebody else, or taking the leadership role myself. And because I was one of the older kids, oldest daughter, that whole thing. And I was very bossy. I still am. But all of that stuff is directly transferable to what I continue to do today. And I love it. And the mountains, and like just being outside, anywhere and everywhere has given me so much. The mountains have given me so much. And just be the nature of being outdoors has given me so much. And I always look for opportunities to give back. I was just in the Azores.
Mhm.
I got back 2 days ago. um, and it's really incredible to be able to bring people together and show them that part of the world, and to have experiences with them, and to be on a trail with them, and to struggle together, to have meals together, to break bread together, to have great conversations with people you might not have ever been friends with, because you reside in different circles,
Yeah.
um, and you do different things. But they decided to sign up for this trip, and we're having these incredible experiences together. And like, I really believe in community, the community that being out in nature and in being and struggling together, triumphing together. And I really believe that is one of the keys to really formulating and sustaining community, which we are desperately in need of now. And so, yeah, like it, and I can talk about this all day about all the things that being out in nature has given me.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great classroom. I'm with you 100%, and I've shaped my life. We have similar experiences. My most memorable experiences as a young girl were the same, playing outside in my backyard. We grew up in suburban Chicago. There was nature, for sure. And then the summer camping trips where my mom would like load us in the car and take us to national parks and things was so formative.
Mm.
And obviously I didn't know it at the time, but it was one of those cascading waterfall type effects that really, like the poem, it set up the whole rest of my life, and same
Hmm.
with yours. I think about, you were a formal educator in classrooms, and you are now like in an outdoor classroom, getting kids, getting adults, you're educating people still, but in a different classroom setting.
Yeah, definitely. I am definitely still a teacher
Yeah.
because I definitely act like one. um, and I do see my job as facilitating joy. Facilitating joy. These are my core values: joy, adventure, community, and family, inclusion, and learning. And all of that can be done in an outdoor setting. When I was just talking about this morning on my hike, I said, you know, I filter everything through my core values, and nature wins every single time.
How did you develop those core values? What was the process for you to reflect and articulate those? Because obviously you listed them off, you spent some time
I've spent a
thinking.
lot of time.
So how did that, what was that process, and how did you come to those?
It's actually really funny because so REI used to have this thing called REI Altessa,
Oh
where
yeah.
they were weekends for women. It was basically camp for women, and you could do all these really, really cool things. And both times that I went with Merrill. Merrill is a former sponsor of mine, and so like I had to go and participate and show up and things. And so one of the presenters couldn't come. She had some sort of emergency. And so they knew I was a teacher because I had left teaching by this point. And they said, "Hey, Mirna, what do you think about leading a workshop on your passion becoming your profession?
Mm.
You seem like, I mean, you have done exactly that. And yeah, can you do a session on that in about 2 hours?"
And can you do it in 5 minutes?
So I had 2 hours to put something together. And this is like
Wow.
one of my skill sets is lesson planning, and even with limited time. And
Yeah.
so I put together this thing where I looked at woman was going to present and she had mentioned core values. And then I so quickly had to work on like, well, what are my core values? What is the thing that
Wow.
is the most important to me?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have them quite as developed. I think joy, adventure, and inclusion were the things that I presented as my core values at that point. Because if something isn't giving me joy, or if I can't bring joy to a situation, I mean, not everything's going to be joyful. We know that that's the human condition, but I it's very important to me, and that's something that people, when they are speaking of me, it's something that is frequently mentioned. And so I said, so that's, well, I'm like, well, yeah, it's really, really important to me. I have a whole joy workshop now that I
Nice.
do. And inclusion was the work that I do. It being included, the power of belonging, all of that is one of the things that was given to me. I was included in many different things, and that allowed me to blossom, and it allowed me to dream,
Yeah.
and to bring even more people into spaces where they previously thought they didn't belong. Um, and then the other thing was, that's a joy, inclusion, and adventure, I think. Was that or community? I don't remember. But I like to adventure, whether it's an adventure of the mind, or of the spirit, or a geographical adventure, where you're stepping out of your comfort zone, and experiencing something for the first time. Those things are important to me, and that's the way that I like to live my life. And so that's how those came about. And I started thinking about that. What there are some other things that are very important to me, and how I live my life, and how I filter the things that I want to do and that I don't want to do, or the things that I will not do. And so I came up with those. They're really six core values, over the course of a couple of years. And then that workshop turned into an actual workshop that I have given at many corporate events.
Yeah.
So it turned out to be a huge opportunity for me. And yeah, and so I think about that a lot. And I was, again, when you're on the trail and you're hiking with somebody, you have these really deep and profound
Mhm.
conversations, and we were talking about mission statements, because we're both, Todd is an educator, um, and we talked about, whether you are living, do I have a personal mission statement? And I said, no, I'd rather talk about my core values,
Mhm.
because I think a mission statement is a moment in time, and
Yeah.
my core values never change. I might add to them. I
Yeah.
don't think I'll ever take away from them, but missions change, depending on the time, depending on your mood. And yeah, and so that's how I came up with my core values. And then when I speak now, I introduce myself with my core values as part of the introduction. Here are my core values. And I think that gets people thinking about, what's important to you? What are non-negotiables for
Yeah.
you, like morally, ethically? How do you live your life? How do you want the things that you do? How do you want those things to reflect who you are? And yes, I think about that a lot. And I'm always evaluating, like, is joy still really important to me? Is the sense of adventure important to me? Is community is always going to be important to me? Family, whether it's your biological family or your chosen family, that's really important to me. And then everything I do is for community, it's for my family, it's for making sure that people feel like they belong,
Yeah.
as part of a community, as part of the society. And it's also learning is my last core value. We always should be learning. When we don't learn, we die. So I don't know. And I think, to go back to the poem, we learned that when we eliminate wolves, the ecology and our environment suffers.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly learning, we're fixing things, um, humans are incredible in that I think we're the only species that actually learns from the previous generation.
Yeah.
Like information wise, I like read it somewhere. I can't remember. Uh, and then that in itself improves our lives for the next couple of generations. And so, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot in that.
I love that. I also do a talk about what I call navigational handrails, and this is through my own experience where, businesses, they have to define core values and mission statement. They have
Hmm.
to. It's like
Hmm.
part of every business, but yet people rarely do that for themselves. And so I love that you do that exercise, because I talk about the same thing. And it was a looking backward of like, when are the times I felt at the most? So if somebody is wanting to develop their own core values, I think
Hmm.
it's super important. Well, one, Lisa Congdon, who's an artist, she has this great card deck, and I like
Oh, I have them.
sitting here.
I,
Adventure is like one of my core values. I'm holding right up, and I keep these cards. I went through the process of going through the deck, and there's like 300 cards, and then you hone it down to 10, which is
hmm.
super hard. But adventure is at the top of the list for me as well. So if anyone hasn't spent some time with their core values, I call them navigational handrails, just because, like you said, nature is such a great teacher for us all. It just sort of keeps you on track.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed in the last few years through my um, concussion recovery, where I wasn't in a good place and was really
Mm,
happy and suffering from depression. And I started to look back at like, well, what's missing? And adventure was
yeah.
missing. Some challenge was missing, and curiosity was missing. And so our writing dates actually got me to explore, because I couldn't explore the way I physically wanted to. But you got me
Mm,
exploring with my writing and in another way. And so that was interesting for me to look at adventure exploration as a core value. But if I couldn't do it in the one way I was used to, you helped me find another way to still hit that value. And I started to recognize that's why part of why I was unhappy is because things were missing.
right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and it's so we forget that we're human, right? And we forget that the things that when we are missing doing the things that we are used to doing, that it has a really a deep effect on us and on us, not just mentally and emotionally, but also physically. And like all of those things are connected. And I'm so glad that, you know, on our spur of the moment conversation, let's write together.
Yeah.
Let's write once a week.
Yeah.
So we were both able to explore all of the things that were happening, but in the world to us as athletes. Um, and by the way, I've submitted my manuscripts to an editor.
Yes, you've been part of our writing days. Were you working on your second book, right? This is
This
your
was,
second.
yeah. We'll see if
Yeah,
it actually,
it's
is
submitted.
good enough. Well, it's submitted to the editor. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, get anyway. But but it was so important for me too, because I was kind of feeling lost myself. Like, what am I doing? Is
Yeah.
any of the work that I'm doing important?
Yeah.
Should I be back in an actual classroom?
Mhm.
Is are people being impacted positively by the things that I call work? Am I being a good mom to my son? Am I being a good family member to my family? Like all of those things came up. Like even though I was writing fiction, all of those things came to the forefront. And I was always thinking about those. So it was probably more beneficial for me than it was for you to sit together, to be together and write. And it was just such a bright spot to my Friday mornings,
Mhm.
to see your face, to see Jen Gurecki's face,
Yeah.
and just simply be together in community and write together and listen to each other. We don't often have spaces where we can just simply be together, do something really cool together, and share without judgment,
Yeah.
without without expectation. And that was really cool. That was really
Yeah, there
cool to
was a
have.
lot wrapped into that where we would catch up, we would, write for 30 minutes and we'd come back and we'd read to each
Hmm.
other. And so there was one, to me, it was like risky because I'm here with two really good writers, like reading stuff. But yeah, we're also meeting up in community and we're taking a risk, we're pushing ourselves. There was a lot wrapped into it that you could take even from the sports or the nature model.
Hmm.
Getting together with people that were a different life experience than me and different expertise than
Hmm.
I had. And yeah, it was a really cool time. And it sounds like we both needed it. And quite honestly, like I couldn't tell that you were maybe struggling with, some identity issues or self-doubt, because
Oh
I
yeah.
certainly was at the time. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
but we didn't even talk about that, but yet we supported each other. We didn't
Hmm.
So it's one way to like be in community and support each other without having to be like, this terrible thing is happening. I'm really struggling with this. Because often when we're hurt or we're down, it's sort of cumbersome to like talk about an injury or talk about
Right.
what's going wrong. And we never did that.
Hmm.
Yet we lifted each other up without having to dive into the negative. We just did
Yeah.
a process together.
Yeah. And I think what we needed from those sessions was that, and it helped, like for me anyway, it shored me up for other things. Like I felt like I had this small group, this small family
Yeah.
of really accomplished women who also needed community. And
Hmm.
yeah, and that it was so needed and so necessary and so wonderful. And we should probably continue doing it.
This podcast was bringing it back around.
we're
But
we're
so
all too busy.
I want to ask about that because there's often this, and I'm curious if this happens too, that really accomplished people and women, especially in one area, super accomplished women don't need any help, don't need any support. We've got it all
We
figured
need the
out.
most help. Did
You
I say
get
that too
that?
loud?
You're like, oh, well, Myrna's fine. She's so strong. She's got it figured out. Does that?
I I am a mess, and it's so funny because like people see me and they think I've got it all together. But when they have to work with me, figure they figure out really quickly that I'm an absolute mess. And
A joyous mess, though.
I I a beautiful mess in progress. But I think somebody else
Well, that's your book, A
said
Beautiful Work in
a
Progress.
beautiful work in progress. But
Yes.
I'm an absolute mess, and so I'm very often just on the edge of crashing out.
Mm,
And but you don't see that. You don't see that on social media. You don't, because I've always been really good about masking that.
mm,
And um and it's because I'm like, my brain is in 30,000 different directions all at the same time every single day. And it's always been like that for me, but I've learned how to handle all of that. But it's, as I get older, it's becoming harder. But yeah, but I think that again, being in community with other people, with again with high achieving people who know how to do lots of things, and who seem to have it all,
mm.
and to be able to do it all,
Yeah.
when that really isn't the case. Because we are human beings with needs, but we're often taking care of either other people, or big things, or big companies, or and just trying to figure things out ourselves. But we've learned how to handle things, but we need help too. We need downtime. We need each other. We need community. We need people to take off some of the burdens from us. But because we've been able to handle those things so well in the past, it's not seen as a need.
Yeah.
As an oldest daughter, like I'm the oldest and the best anyway, uh but my sister's really the one in charge. It's I appear very strong, and then it's often when I ask for help, it's like, well, do you really need help?
Mm. So
Yeah,
you're okay asking for help, but you don't always
I'm not
receive.
okay asking for help.
Okay.
And
Me neither.
so, yeah, I'm not okay asking for help. And often, like if I fall on a trail, I don't want anybody to touch me because I
Mm,
want to do it by myself,
mm,
and I don't want anybody helping me up. It's a bad thing, you know. Unless I'm like I broke my leg or something, I don't want your help, and I don't think that's healthy. Um, and just to tell a quick story, when I was out in Chamonix, I've been there a lot this year, skiing. I got very sick while skiing up a mountain in Switzerland, and I needed a lot of help. And it
mhm,
was, and I had to be very vulnerable. I was very sick, and I had just had to accept help, and it
mhm.
felt very odd.
Yeah.
Like I tried to clean up my own vomit, and I wouldn't let anybody else help me. And finally, they pulled the mop out of my hands and said, "Please go to bed." And but I mean, I think that's just a symptom of like always, always having to be the one, or thinking I always have to be the one to solve my own problems. I mean, my problems that I brought on myself, or even problems that I didn't bring on myself, and because I want to solve them, because I've always been tasked with solving those things, and yeah, so people think that you don't need help,
Mhm,
and so yeah. So anyway, um, I've been a little bit better about asking for help and asking for downtime and saying yes when people say, "Hey, would you like a hand?"
mhm.
But I'm not quite where I need to be yet.
It's a process. I'm right there with you. And the brain injury was definitely a big lesson. And for a year and a half, I hid my symptoms, didn't ask for help. I tried to get medical help, but it wasn't coming. And eventually, had to really raise my hand because it was pretty dire. It sounds like your
Mm.
situation in Chamonix as well. Like you really did need help. But how do we build because we are human, in your own words, how do we build a support around us that lifts us up, and that asking for help or support isn't seen as weakness, it isn't
Hmm.
seen as failure? How do strong people and achievers build that scaffolding?
I mean, that's our society, though. Like that's the kind of world that we live in the on the West Coast, anyway. I mean, not the West Coast, in the Western Hemisphere.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I don't know. I, I don't know. I think. Well, I mean, I think again, like thinking of the outdoors and being in nature, and how nothing really can be achieved alone.
Hmm.
Like when you go on a hike somewhere, somebody has built that trail. You're not alone on that. Somebody else has been on that trail. Somebody else felt the need to climb up this mountain. You're not alone, right? And so I think if we take that model of community, um, and knowing that we're not the first to experience this particular thing, other human beings have. Um, I think if we do have a model of community, working together to like advance humanity and to make sure everybody's taken care of, um, without depending on one person to do it all,
Hmm.
because that's the easy way out.
Yeah.
Oh, this person, they got it. They got it. And very often I'm like, yeah, I got it. I don't need your help because I do have the skills. But
Hmm.
then I get burnt out and then I don't say anything about it.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's everybody's job to recognize that in people, recognize when they're burnt out, and offer help. And then, sometimes you just have to make them say yes to help.
Hmm.
I'm going to take you off this project because I think you need a break.
Mhm. Or,
You know,
an example might be people didn't know how to help me, with my concussion thing. And,
hmm
because I wasn't riding my bike, I was embarrassed to go ride my bike because there was
mm,
that expectation. And, you know, it might have looked like a friend saying, I'm coming over to go on a dog walk with you. Instead of, would you like me to come over or would you like to go on a
yeah.
bike ride? And I declined so many bike rides because I wasn't comfortable and I was afraid and there's a lot of baggage around it.
hmm
But there were a few people that they would just call and talk to me and or to say, I'm coming on a dog walk. And I think that's a nice way to offer support that doesn't feel like you're sort of critiquing the person or
hmm
there's no like baggage attached to it. It's just it's like when people bring meals when a
hmm
family member dies. It's like you just bring food or you just spend time with someone, and it's so hard for us to because we want to try to fix things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes like our writing dates they were fixing something that we weren't identifying.
hmm
Oh, we need to write because we all need support as strong women. We just were writing.
hmm
And I appreciated that kind of support that didn't feel like I needed a crutch.
Right. And it cuts out all the decision fatigue. Uh,
Mhm.
um, when your friends showed up, we're going to go on a dog walk.
Yeah.
And you don't get to make a decision. We're just going to go.
I don't get to say no,
Right.
basically.
Right. When I had my son 22 years ago, um, I had this friend, David Hyman, and he would show up to my apartment and say, "Let's go out. Let's go out for a walk.
Mhm.
Um, you can bring the baby, you can leave the baby here, but let's go out for a walk. You can't just be inside."
Mm.
Um, and he'd call and say, "Hey, we're going to Fairway, which is a supermarket in New York. I'm outside right now. Come down."
Mm.
And because like they could see that I needed, I couldn't see it myself, and sometimes it does take your friends to call you
Yeah.
out, and and those are your true friends. They
Yeah.
see that need in you, and they say, "Let's go." You
Mhm.
don't have a chance to say no. You don't have a chance to explain your way out of it. And that's I think that's we need more of that. We need
Well, and
more
you
of
hit
that.
on two themes that we talked about. It's going outside and moving in nature
Mm,
and recognizing that someone just needs to get out of their house for a minute,
yeah,
however that looks, and not asking, what can I do to help?
yeah,
Because maybe you don't know, or you're going to say, no,
yeah,
no, no, I'm fine. I'm totally fine.
yeah. I'm fine. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. See how easily that came out? I'm fine. Don't worry about me.
Easy. Yeah, and I mean it's our lifestyle. You
Yeah.
know, you grew up in a household and took care of your siblings and your mom, you took care of your son and now you're an educator and you help take care of people in the outdoors. But ultimately nature does take care of us
hmm
too when you feel like you have no one. I
hmm
loved you talking about the trail. You're never the first one to walk there. You're
hmm
never, you might be having a personal solo experience, but you are connected to the earth and other people even if you're alone.
Yeah. Yeah. I once did a speech, well, a couple of times. Started writing this speech based on this experience I had had on a trail, the Long Trail in Vermont, and it was thundering. I hate thunder. I don't like Mirna does not do thunder. And I was with a friend, and that was fine. It made me feel a little bit better, and I because I really have a phobia of thunderstorms, and it's a little bit better now, but it's still pretty bad. But anyway, so we're on the trail together, and it's thundering, and it's just like really low rumbles of thunder, and it's like it gotten a little green out, and we've got 2 more miles to go on this trail, and but then I see these trail signs These directional signs. If you go this way 0.6 miles, you'll see a waterfall. If you go this way, you'll get to the parking lot. If you go this way, you'll be on the bridge over this gorge. And that in itself comforted me, because again, going back to this feeling of not being alone, I was with another person, of course, but I was like, well, other people have needed to find their way on these trails. So like, whether it's their spirits or their whatever, they are here with me. And that was really comforting to me, to see trail signs.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not out here by myself. I'm not out here experiencing this fear of thunder by myself. There are other people who have experienced the same exact thing. And I'm just continuing that trajectory. And that helped me like not be so afraid for the rest of that hike. Again, I was with my friend Cara Richardson Whiteley, who is an author who wrote the book Gorge. And and I didn't express to her that I was like feeling like fear in that moment, but I was really uncomfortable, and but we made it out. And but I wrote the speech. I was like, well, that was it. Like these trail signs just, they locked me in. And I was like, I am part of a larger world community, a larger human community, when I'm on these paths, because that's what they are. They're paths from one place to another. And other people have done the exact same thing. So that was a really cool moment for me. And so like we are all community. We're it's an automatic community, but we have to continue to work at it to stay in community. Again, another lesson from being outside.
Little trail markers that are always there if we can look and notice and see them. Have you always felt welcomed in the outdoors? Has it always been a safe place for you?
The outdoors always welcomes me.
Yes.
It's people that are the problem.
Yeah.
And people who have ideas on who belongs on trails, specifically, or like on a mountain bike on trails, or like running on trails, or on a mountain skiing. But the outdoors itself, outdoors always welcomes me.
Yeah.
And obviously I always welcome the outdoors in my life. And so it's people and their experiences with people who don't look like them, or people who they perceive as having had different experiences than them, who have been the issue. But like, not, the more I get to do the work that I do, and inclusion, and diversity, equity, and inclusion, in outdoor spaces specifically, the more I'm seeing that things are changing for the better. I think people are more used to seeing a really diverse array of humanity on trails and outdoor spaces. Some people still, they're like, oh, they'll look at me and be like, so, what brings you here? This is my job.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I still encounter a lot of that, and a lot of it is curiosity. Some of it is, well, I didn't expect you to be out here. And you just have to kind of, people have their own perceptions and attitudes about who belongs outside. I'm just going to continue, as I said to National Geographic, sticking my black ass in spaces where people think I don't belong. I'm just gonna keep doing that. And I feel that less and less. I think people are just used to seeing different people, and when they're not, they do have a reaction, and that's okay. It's okay, as long as they don't put me in any danger. It's okay that people have a reaction. I'm still going to be out here. I'm still going to be, representing all of the various identities that I hold. I'm a Black woman. I'm a plus size woman. I am, and those things together. Like, people are like, oh, well, like I didn't realize that fat people that like hike. Well, here I am. Or that Black people came up here. Here I am, dispelling that myth. And then I'm gonna continue running. I'm gonna continue hiking. So I think it's getting better. We still need more work, and providing access to lots of different kinds of folks. Whether they are disabled folks, whether they are people who are, Southeast Asian, or people who are fat, or people who are of a different religion than you are, or like a different faith, or maybe they don't practice a faith or something. Like there's room for all of us to be in natural spaces. Like we belong. We're humans. We belong. We are part of nature. We belong out there. And it is not just for one kind of person. And so that's the thing, my social media people react to the most. They see me as a fat woman running. They're like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be doing that. You should be dieting or whatever. or they have a violent reaction to seeing something that they've never seen before, or something that that there's a societal narrative that a certain person doesn't do these things, or they shouldn't do these things. And so I get a lot of that backlash, but and even though it hurts and it surprises me sometimes, I am still going to get out there no matter what, and show people what's possible in the bodies that they have, and the skin that they're in, the age that they are. So yeah, I'm going to keep doing it.
Educating people as you always have. You made me think of, I read this Ram Dass quote this morning, and I want to read it now because it's a lot of what you're talking about. And it just came up this morning and it was so beautiful. It says, when you go out into the woods and you look at trees, you see all these different trees, and some of them are bent. You sort of understand that it didn't get enough light, and so it turned that way. And you don't get all emotional about it. You just allow it. The minute you get near humans, you lose all that. And you are constantly saying, you are to this, or I'm to this. That judgment mind comes in. And so I practice turning people into trees, which means appreciating them just the way they are. Ram Dass.
Oh,
Isn't that ties into our nature? When you're saying that, it's like the trees belong in the forest, we belong in the forest, and the bent over crooked ones, you just sort of accept.
Allow them to exist.
Right. Right.
And I have another speech about allowing people to exist in their full humanity.
Yeah.
That's who we are. This is who that person is. This is who that person is. That's what they do. That's what they like to do. This is how they walk. This is how they experience life. It's okay that we have all different experiences and different ways of being. It's okay. That's what makes life interesting.
Yeah. We appreciate them just the way they are.
That quote is awesome.
Appreciate you just the way they are. And as we wrap up, I have 2 more things for you. I could talk to you forever. We need to schedule a bike ride and a writing date.
Yes.
Bike
ride. I'll be over in Sun Valley soon.
I hope so. Share some adventure with you. But one question, and then we're going to close in a really beautiful way. Since this is called What's the Rush? Is there something right now that you are editing, slowing, pausing, that you're working on in this moment?
Okay. I keep bringing everything back to this hike I did this morning. I am not wedded anymore to reaching peaks. And we were half a mile away from reaching a peak. And I'm like, you know what? We might not do it. And it's okay. Like the most important thing to me is that I'm outside moving my body in the Adirondacks. That's what's important to me. If we don't reach the peak, it's okay. The mountain's not going anywhere. And so there are a lot of things that I've been thinking about and in terms of pausing, thinking about the work that I do, and thinking about the fact that I don't really want to engage, and this might be not a great thing to say in public, but to engage in as a runner in like big huge races where like I have to perform, not perform in terms of running, but just I have to perform, I have to be there and perform and like and you know and it's a there's so much anxiety that I get. And like I'm a highly anxious person, but you would never know because I don't present as an anxious person. The anxiety is there, trust. Um, and I'm not with that anymore. Like I
Mm.
want to run and I want to run because I love to run and I love to move my body in that way. And I don't need to be watched
Yeah, a
while
podium, a
I'm doing
summit,
it.
a measurement. I totally get that. I was also reading something that somebody wrote that Strava needs a metric for joy and enjoyment. Like
Mm.
not how fast or this or that did you go, but how much did you enjoy your ride or
Bros
your
don't like joy, so so because it's soft.
I don't
Um,
cultivating joy. I'm right there with you right now. That's
I know,
awesome.
hashtag not all boys. Okay. So not
Right,
all bros.
right.
But yeah, I like that idea. I think we should celebrate joy and that. And like I'm slow. Like I'm never gonna win anything. I'm never gonna podium or anything like that. And I very frequently come in last. And so like, but I'm kind of tired of being watched
Mhm.
while I do that and while I struggle with myself and with, the elements and stuff. And
Yeah,
so like I'm thinking about that. I've been putting that kind of thing on pause after my big event with Lululemon last
yeah.
year, which was phenomenal. Um, but it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of the actual running,
Mhm.
and like showing up at a race and like having to be interviewed and stuff, and it sort of disrupts my flow
Yeah.
of like why I started running or I restarted running in the first place and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so like I've been thinking about that a lot. And that's not to say that I'm not grateful for all of the incredible opportunities that I've had to speak and to represent people who have previously been forgotten. But now I just want to get back to the running. I want to get back to the trails and and then make my own content with my GoPro. But without feeling that I have to be polished.
Yeah.
And I just want to be raggedy sometimes, and I want to be allowed to be raggedy. But anyway, so that's something that I've been thinking about a lot
And nature and the
lately.
trees will accept you just as you are
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I asked you because you are a beautiful singer and I've heard you sing before, if we could wrap this with a little song from you.
Okay, because I forgot about this part. It's fine. It's fine. Do you have a particular language you'd like me to sing in? Not
You
English, because I don't like to sing in English. The song is called "Непой красавица." Don't sing to me the songs of my homeland because it's about nostalgia and wanting to go back to their homeland. Красавица при мне, ты песен грозы печальной. Напоминать мне о ней другая жизнь и берег данный. Увы, напоминать Well, I did that without the accompaniment.
Wow. Returning to your homeland. And I mean, so appropriate that you're in the mountains where you fell in love with being in the mountains.
Yes! That's so true!
Thank
I
you.
wasn't warmed up for that.
Thank you for sharing so much of yourself with us today on What's the Rush. What a gift you are to all of us.
And thank you. You are a gift to me. Not just to everybody, but you are a gift to me personally. Thank you for all that you do and all that you are.
It's a long and dusty road and a hot and heavy load. Folks I meet ain't always kind. Some are bad, some are good, some have done the best they could. Some have tried to ease my troubling mind. And I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound.